Good morning, I'm Barbara Savage. Today I want to speak about the issue of the federal government's involvement in achievement standard initiatives in states across the United States. According to Smith and Greenblatt, in 1958 Congress passed the National Defense Education Act to address the shortcomings of public education, specifically the lack of teachers in the areas of mathematics and science. Since then, the government turned to education as the go to or response to national issues. In other words, education is the Ten Commandment prerogative of states and local government. Education is the solution to national problems, encourages the meddling of the federal government in state public schools. It becomes the push and pull federalism. Despite the education sector being under the legal jurisdictions of states, federal mandates and funding have increased the role of federal government in achievement standards initiatives. Over the last decade, state government fought to reduce government control over public education. Yet, government's role appears to be growing. For example, the No Child Left Behind Act is a federal law that was passed in 2002 to improve academic achievement, eliminate gaps in educational achievement between white and minority students, and hold teachers accountable for student achievement. Subsequently, the Every Student Succeeds Act was passed, followed by the Common Core Initiative. Initially, the No Child Left Behind Act garnered bipartisan support. It relies heavily on federally mandated policies of standardized tests, set the minimum standard of proficiency for passing these tests, and requires all schools with different demographic groups to ensure that they reach full proficiency standard or identify with the status as failing. This sparks controversy over standards and what constitutes failing. But this worsened when the federal government did not keep up with its end of the bargain, that is, providing the implementation cost. Based on these stringent measures, states became frustrated and fought back hard against the No Child Left Behind Act. It was during President Obama's presidency that his administration began granting waivers to some states, that is, releasing them from the No Child Left Behind requirements. This act was replaced by the Every Student Succeed Act, which had much looser set of regulations by the federal government, a removal from the top-down directives from Washington, D.C. The high political stakes surrounding education are not unique to the 21st century. The No Child Left Behind Act and Common Core are just two examples of a near continuous education reform effort that sparked controversy in the early 1980s. In the 1990s, the Clinton administration reauthorized the Elementary and the Secondary Education Act. Of note, of all these movements, the No Child Left Behind Act sparked significant controversy. The subsection of the Every Student Succeed Act forced the federal government away from regulating public schools and giving states the lead in education reform. In an interview with Crystal Duncan, music teacher at Lauderhill K through 12, I asked, how effective is the No Child Left Behind program? Her response was, one of the primary concerns is students advance to the next level whether or not they fully comprehend the material, placing them at a great disadvantage. To her, this increases their dropout rates. She also added, the No Child Left Behind forces teachers to be more innovative in the classroom. Lesson planning also becomes more time consuming and challenging. Nationally, standardized tests have become the norm. Students must pass exams to advance. Through a coordinated effort, states develop a uniform national set of academic standards, the Common Core State Standards. The goal of this initiative is to develop a consistent and rigorous set of standards aligned with the academic skill sets for students to advance in higher education or to get good jobs. The Common Core provides uniform framework replacing all other standards and testing programs in different states. According to Smith and Greenblatt, the Common Core has encountered a strong political backlash. To some naysayers, there's little evidence of what the Common Core could do to improve public education. They believe a reform of such magnitude should be tested before it's institutionalized. While others do not like the wholesale approach of the Common Core, they chorused, states should operate independently. Students who were earning good grades did poorly in the new standardized tests, and many worry about the autonomy of the testing companies. President Obama's administration strongly supported the Common Core. The Common Core has become one of the most toxic on the education platform, berated by partisan politics. As a state led initiative, the federal government provided financial incentive for states to adopt the program. To some, the Common Core was turning into a platform to centralize federal control over K through 12 education. That was enough for some critics to advocate getting their states out. Today, states continue to push back at the federal government. But yet, despite all the pushback, the Common Core train is steaming forward. As President Lyndon Johnson stated, education will be the solution to economic and social problems. Funding from federal government may seem political, but is a necessity for improvement in the public education initiative in the United States. My recommendation is for both the state and the federal government to foster a good working relationship to improve existing initiatives or create new standard movements. This will allow schools in the United States to compete at the global level, more specifically in science and mathematics. State funding alone cannot create opportunities in public education. Despite the level of school performance, stakeholders believe that it should be improved. Decades of new techniques, including early reading programs, have not resulted in a real solution. The law holds schools accountable for academic progress, required standardized testing to measure that progress, and required states to set benchmarks on achievements. States believe this is too invasive. To Smith and Greenblatt, prior to the Every Student Success Act, standard-based reform efforts at the state level did not work. I believe states can improve their achievement standards initiatives through continued intergovernmental relationships, more so at the federal government level.